Our quiche connoisseur, Chef Jason Parsons, is joining us remotely to share his take. We keep putting him outside because we keep expecting it to be spring. Jay, break down what a quiche is and why it is a great recipe for spring.
Well, first of all, it's spring up here, so we're fine. This is great. I love it out here. No, quiche are great because, so quiche is basically a tart that's got a custard baked inside. So you think custard heavy, but not really, because you put a lot of filling in there. Today we've got all different ingredients that we're going to do, but you can use any springtime ingredients, and then you just pour the custard, bake it. And because of that, it just captures everything that's happening in the spring, so it's perfect.
Yum. Okay, before we dive into the delicious recipe, I'm going to tell you the delicious springy things we're putting in. And this is what you need to make this quiche. You need smoked salmon, green asparagus, goat cheese, baby spinach, some eggs, 10% cream, 35% cream, and of course, a tart shell, which is how the whole thing starts. So, Jay, we're going to talk a little bit about that shell and how you make it look so perfectly gorgeous.
Here's the thing with a tart shell, you can make your own crust, and you can do a pie crust or you can do a sweet crust. You can play a little bit depending on your filling. But the reality is you can also go out there and buy some pretty good bases. And what I do, I tend to, you can actually melt that and then actually put it back in, like defrost it and make it your own mold so it looks like you did it at home. So that's kind of a cheating tip right there. But here's the thing. This is raw dough, raw custard. Okay, if I take my filling and I put it in here, it's going to leak through here. I'm going to get the old soggy bottom. It's not going to taste great at all. So I need to prep this before I actually make my quiche. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to blind bake this, which is pop it in the oven for 2 to 3 minutes. Well, maybe a little longer, about 5 to 6 minutes, just to set it. It's almost fully cooked. I'd say about 75% cooked. Here comes the wind. I also throw that in there, it's going to bubble up. So what I do is I take beans. And it doesn't actually have to be beans. But I line it with a bit of parchment paper. But if you don't have parchment paper, but you've got coffee filters, they work as well. And you could put beans, rice, anything. It doesn't have to be really heavy. It just helps to keep it in its shape. And then when you bake it, it helps all this pastry stay up the edges and they don't fall in. So let's talk about the quiche.
Now we're ready to make our quiche. So what is the first thing we put in?
Yes. Well, first thing is, and this is what I was looking forward to, is because I'm going to put a bed of spinach in the bottom. So tips at home, if you're going to do a nice loose leaf spinach in your quiche, maybe don't do it outside in a windstorm because it's going to... Is it going to stay? It's good. Oh, no. We've got beautiful spring asparagus, and I've blanched them, and I'm actually making a little design. You can just chop this up and just throw it in there if you don't want to get fancy, but you know us. We got to make things look nice, right? So we do a little fan like that. And then I've got beautiful salmon. I don't know why salmon to me feels like spring, but it's just that really great, kind of flavor. It's very colorful. And you just layer them around the outside, again, making a nice design. But you want to be able to, and the reason for this too is it's not just design. When you cut this into pieces, you want to make sure everybody gets a bit of salmon, gets a bit of asparagus. You don't want to put it all in one area. So something simple like that.
Beautiful.
Then you take your goat cheese and you just put chunks of it in there, big chunks. But again, make sure it's all around the edges. We don't want to be like, hey, you got ghost cheese, I didn't get ghost cheese. We don't want to start any fights at home, okay?
Yeah, we fought about a lot less than that.
You know how it is, right?
Right?
You prep this in advance, and then it's all about the filling. You do the filling last because you don't want to, again, get a soggy bottom. Even though we've cooked this already, if you put liquid and leave it, it's going to start to get too wet. So here we do. Well, we just take eggs, and it's 7 whole eggs, and basically the ratio is 7 eggs to 4 cups of liquid, okay? But I do half 10% cream and half milk. Because you can do it all milk if you want, but I think the cream gives it a little bit more richness to it. If you're going a little crazy, you can put a 35% cream in there if you want. And if you want a little tang, you can actually back off a little bit of this cream and add a little bit of sour cream in here. But your liquid is 4 cups to 7 eggs. And literally what you would do is just whisk all this together. Because we're in a windstorm, I'm going to have the magic of television. Boom. And then you just season this with some salt, pepper, and then this is again where you can get creative. You can add nutmeg in here, you can add herbs in here, some lemon zest in there. It's spring. Take advantage of what's happening in the garden, okay? So, last thing, we're going to take this and we're going to pour our mixture in, but we're only going to pour about half of it. Reason being is you don't want to top this all the way up and then start walking to the oven like this, right? You take that over to your oven now, you put it on the wire rack, and then just before you're about to close it, you finish this off and you pour it right to the top. As much quiche mixture you can get in there without it spilling over the sides. And then you close your oven and let it cook.
And the final result looks beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Well, isn't this awesome? And I mean, you know, what's great is the goat's cheese is browned a little bit on top. And I mean, you don't have to do that, but if you want, you can turn your broiler on and, you know, put a little bit more Gruyere cheese on top or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can see when I cut this, everybody's going to get a bit of goat cheese, everybody's going to get a bit of smoked salmon, and it's just going to, and it's great warm or cold.
I love it.
Perfect spring right
Listen,
there.
we told our viewers to use the 10% and the 35%, so obviously we told you how to do like the luxe version, so go and do that. It's spring. There's a lot of green stuff in there. Chef, thank you. That recipe is up at cityline.tv, and it looks so good.